Look around you. Look at the walls that shelter you, the city that surrounds you, the vast, intricate machinery of the civilization we call home. We look at a building and we say, this is a structure of brick and mortar. We look at a body and say, this is a structure of flesh and bone, but this is a deception. It is a surface-level illusion that blinds us to the terrifying and beautiful truth of what actually holds reality together. There is a controlling cause, a breadth and scope of influence that dictates the life force of a city, a house, a kingdom, or a human being. The ancients knew this. They had a word for it, a word that has been diluted, mistranslated, and stripped of its nuclear power over the centuries. That word is Nafsha. In the ancient Aramaic tongue, the language that once echoed through the hills of Galilee, Nafsha was not merely a poetic term for a ghostly wisp floating in the chest. It was a technical term. It described the self as a controlling entity. It was the blueprint, the software, the invisible hand that shapes the clay of the physical world. And the ancient wisdom suggests something that modern science is only just beginning to grapple with. To run counter to this controlling force is death. Not just metaphorical death, but the literal disintegration of the system. Whether that system is a kingdom, a family, or your own cellular biology. We live in a world obsessed with effects, yet we are entirely ignorant of causes. We treat the smoke and ignore the fire. We medicate the body while the nafsha, the controlling entity, remains fractured, isolated, and starving. Consider the force of gravity. We walk through it every moment of our lives. We are pinned to this planet by it. We trust it. And yet, ask a scientist, what is gravity? And watch them stumble. They can describe what it does. They can calculate its pull. They say it is a property of space-time, a curvature caused by mass. But dig deeper. Why does matter spin? Why do the planets dance? Momentum, they say. Conservation of angular momentum. It is a scientific excuse, a placeholder for a mystery they are terrified to name. If you have a spin, you must have a spin force. And if you have a spin force, you must have a spin source. But to admit the existence of a spin source, a primal, intelligent origin of movement, is to admit the existence of God. And that is the uncrossable border for the materialist mind. They will invent infinite universes and 11 dimensions before they simply admit that the river of gravity flows from a fountainhead of intelligence. This force that spins the galaxies is the same force that is meant to spin you. It is a gravity of the spirit, a force you cannot feel, just as you do not feel the weight of the atmosphere pressing down on you. But when you align with it, when you stop fighting the current, you become a conduit for something that creates worlds. This is the great secret of the Nafsha. It was never meant to be a static thing. It was meant to be a dynamic channel. But something happened. A glitch. A separation. We developed a second self. An intellect that fell in love with its own reflection. And in that separation, we created sickness. We created anxiety. We created a civilization that is brilliant at building machines but catastrophic at building peace. Tonight, we are going to dismantle the machine. We are going to look under the hood of human consciousness and rediscover the two kinds of faith. One leads to the slow decay of the soul. The other is the key to a power that can rewrite the laws of your biology. Let us speak of the other self, the imposter. You believe you are your thoughts. You wake up in the morning, and the ticker tape begins. The worries, the judgments, the rehearsals of arguments that haven't happened, the replay of regrets from 20 years ago. You say, I am thinking. But are you? Or are you being thought? The ancient texts warn of a divided nafsha, a self that has severed its connection to the spin source and decided to run on its own battery power. This is the ego. This is the intellect when it becomes a master rather than a servant. It is a closed loop, a feedback loop of error, correcting error, lie, layering upon lie. Think of the woman in the ancient texts, the one with the 12-year flow of blood. For 12 years, she was drained of life. She had spent all she had on physicians, on the experts of her time, and was no better. In fact, she was worse. Why? Because she was seeking a solution in the world of effects. She was looking outside herself for a cure that could only be authorized from within. But then a shift occurred. The text says she said within herself, within her Nafsha, "If I may only touch his garment, I shall be whole." This was not superstition. This was a realignment of the control source. She stopped believing in the sickness and the failure of the doctors, and she placed her total intent, her total set or goal, on a connection with the truth. And the moment she acted on that inner alignment, the biology followed. The blood stopped. The chaos ordered itself. We miss the mechanics of this miracle because we view it as magic. It is not magic. It is the law of the universe. The body is the obedient servant of the Nafsha. If the Nafsha is ruled by the intellect, which is filled with fear, pride, and separation, the body will manifest that chaos. It will spin out of orbit. We call this disease. We call this stress. We call this normal life. The big problem of life is that you have been trained to believe in the lie. You believe the preacher who learned from a book, who learned from a professor, who learned from a system designed to keep you dependent. You believe the politician who tells you that you are needy, that you are a victim, that you need the state to save you. They control the mind through your neediness. If they can keep you in a state of want, they own you. And who is the greatest tyrant of all? It is the voice in your own head, the one that judges. Judgment is the poison. We think judgment is wisdom. We look at a person acting foolishly and we say, "Look at that idiot." We feel a spike of superiority. We feel righteous. But in that moment, we have swallowed a hook. Emotion pulls us down from the God-given height of discernment. Discernment is clarity. It is the ability to see a person doing evil and understand the mechanics of it. To see that they are not in control of themselves, that they are driven by a parasite of their own without becoming emotionally entangled. Judgment, on the other hand, is an emotional reaction. It is the ego puffing itself up. And when you judge, you lower your frequency to match the thing you hate. You let the enemy in. You become a carrier of the very virus you are condemning. There is a terrifying metaphor in nature for this condition. There is a parasite that infects the cricket. It wraps itself around the creature's intestine, growing long and heavy. And when the parasite is ready to reproduce, it hijacks the cricket's brain. It floods it with a chemical signal that overrides the cricket's survival instinct. It forces the cricket to jump into water to commit suicide, so the parasite can burst forth and continue its cycle. Humanity is that cricket. We are driven by a parasitic intellect that whispers thoughts of self-destruction, of war, of addiction, of despair. These thoughts are not natural to us. It is not natural to hate your brother. It is not natural to destroy your own habitat. It is not natural to live in a state of chronic anxiety. Something has hijacked the signal. And the only way to break the signal is to stop listening to the noise and start listening to the silence. So how do we sever the connection to the parasite? How do we return to the spin source? It requires a new kind of technology, not a machine of metal and wire, but a technology of consciousness. We call it forgiveness, but not the forgiveness you learned in Sunday school. That was a transaction. I'm sorry, you're sorry, let's shake hands. Real forgiveness is metaphysical. It is the refusal to react. When you meet the next moment without judging, when you meet an attack with patient endurance, you are creating a vacuum. You are creating a space where the ego cannot survive. The enemy comes against you, expecting resistance. He expects you to fight back, to argue, to defend your pride, because the enemy advances through your reaction. If you react, you are playing his game on his turf. But if you stand still, if you observe, if you see the anger in him, understand it, but do not let it enter you, then the enemy hits a wall of light. He feels a power he cannot comprehend. He becomes frightened because he is pushing against a ghost, and the energy he is throwing out bounces back upon him. This is the martial art of the spirit. You do not initiate control. You do not try to fix the world with your will. You suspend judgment. You observe. And in that suspension, a higher power enters the equation. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. This is not a plea, it is a formula. It is an equation of state. You are asking to be released from the bondage of your own errors, to the exact degree that you release others from the bondage of your judgment. You cannot be free if you are holding someone else in the prison of your mind. It is humbling. It is humiliating to the ego. The ego wants to be right. It wants to win. It wants to say, I told you so. But the ego must die for the Nafsha to live. This is the story of the prodigal son. It is the story of the human race. We took our inheritance, the life force, the consciousness given to us by the source, and we squandered it in a foreign land. The land of the intellect. The land of the senses. We rolled in the mud with the swine, trying to fill an infinite hunger with finite husks. And only when we hit rock bottom, only when the pain becomes greater than the pride do we remember, my Father's house. But here is the beauty of the system. You do not have to climb the mountain all the way back. You do not have to perfect yourself before you are accepted. You only have to turn around. You only have to start the walk. The text says the Father saw him from a long way off and ran to meet him. This is the physics of grace. When you make the slightest motion toward the truth, when you sit in silence, when you observe your thoughts without engaging, when you refuse to hate the person who hates you, the universe rushes to meet you. The gravity of God pulls you in. You might feel ashamed. You might feel the pain of your past errors. That is the heat of re-entry. That is the friction of the old self burning away. Do not run from it. Stand in it. Let it burn. We are talking about energy. Free energy. We look for free energy in magnets and zero-point fields, hoping to power our cities. But the greatest generator of free energy is the human soul aligned with its creator. When you stop wasting your life force on resentment, on worry, on maintaining the mask of the ego, you suddenly have a surplus. You have a reserve. This is the daily bread the ancient prayer speaks of. It is not a loaf from the bakery. It is the daily influx of vital force required to navigate the chaos of the world without being consumed by it. The righteous never beg for bread. This means that those who are aligned with the source always have the energy they need. They find a way. Even at the lowest point, they blossom. They do not depend on the economy of the world. They operate on the economy of the infinite. This is why the medical system is failing. It is managing illness, not cultivating health. It is a business model based on the persistence of the other Nafsha, the separated self. A population that is sick, confused, and dependent is a profitable population. A population that is whole, self-governing, and connected to the source is a threat to the hierarchy. Lead us not into temptation. Or, as the Aramaic more accurately implies, let us not yield to temptation. The temptation is always the same. It is the temptation to fall asleep, to slip back into the coma of the intellect, to let the environment control you, to let the news cycle dictate your blood pressure, to let the rudeness of a stranger dictate your mood. When you walk into a room, who is in control? Is it the room? Is it the collective anxiety of the people in it? Or is it the stillness within you? If you are asleep, the room eats you. You become a chameleon, turning the color of your surroundings. But if you are awake, if your Nafsha is unified, you change the room. You don't do it with your will. You don't try to dominate. You simply are. Your presence acts as a tuning fork, bringing the dissonant frequencies around you into harmony. People will feel it. They won't know what it is. They will feel a peace when they are near you. Or, if they are deeply committed to their demons, they will feel uncomfortable. They will lash out. They will try to provoke you to see if your peace is real. Let them. It is not personal. It is the friction of two worlds colliding. We are standing on the edge of an uncrossable border. Science can take us to the edge of the atom, to the edge of the universe, but it cannot cross into the realm of cause. It cannot find the spin source with a telescope. That border must be crossed inwardly. It is a scary crossing. It means leaving behind everything you thought you were. It means admitting that your intellect, your pride, your accumulated knowledge is nothing more than a collection of dust. It means standing naked before the king. But there is a promise in the ancient geometry of the soul. Who finds his own self shall lose it, but who loses his own self shall find it. If you cling to the little self, the ego, the mask, you will lose everything. Entropy will claim you, dust to dust. But if you are willing to lose that self, to let it die in the silence of observation, to surrender the need to be right, to surrender the need to judge, you will find the true self. The one that was never born and will never die. The one that spins with the stars. The choice is yours. You can remain a victim of the world, tossed by the waves of circumstance, controlled by the parasite of the conditioned mind. Or you can return to the Father's house. You can become the observer. You can become the gravity that holds your own world together. The door is open. The Father is watching. The only thing missing is you. Stop thinking. Start seeing. And let the healing begin.